Xbox might have just delivered one of its biggest showcases in years. We finally got major updates on some of the most anticipated games in development, and today we're talking about the three that completely stole the show: Gears of War E-Day, Fable, and Clockwork Revolution. Gears of War E-Day. Let's start with the game that made a lot of longtime Xbox fans lose their minds. Gears of War E-Day takes us back to the very beginning of the Locust invasion. Instead of continuing the modern timeline, Xbox is bringing us back to the day everything went wrong. What immediately stood out was the atmosphere. The city looks alive before chaos erupts. People are going about their day, and then suddenly the Locust emerge from underground. It feels less like a traditional Gears sequel and more like a disaster movie where you're watching civilization collapse in real time. The graphics are absolutely ridiculous. Unreal Engine 5 is doing some heavy lifting here. The lighting, destruction, particle effects, and character models all look like a major leap forward for the franchise. Marcus Phoenix looks younger, but still has that same attitude fans love. Dom is back too, and seeing these two together again instantly brings back memories of the original trilogy. One thing that stood out was how much more horror focused the game feels. The Locust aren't just enemies anymore, they're terrifying. The showcase really emphasized how shocking and overwhelming the invasion was for normal people who had never seen these monsters before. And if Xbox can combine that horror atmosphere with classic Gears gameplay, this could easily become one of the biggest Xbox exclusives in years. Fable. Now let's talk about Fable. This game has had one of the longest waits imaginable. Fans have been asking for a new Fable for over a decade, and now we're finally getting a better look at what Playground Games has been cooking. The world of Albion looks absolutely stunning. Everywhere you look, there's fantasy creatures, giant landscapes, castles, villages, and tons of personality. But the thing that really makes Fable stand out isn't the graphics, it's the humor. There was one particular scene that immediately made me laugh because it reminded me of Shrek. You know those scenes in Shrek where the villagers are wearing weird wooden masks and putting on puppet shows while everything feels like a twisted fairy tale? Fable had a moment that gave off almost the exact same energy. The strange puppet like characters, the exaggerated fantasy setting, and the bizarre humor felt straight out of a Shrek style fairy tale. It had that same feeling of making fun of classic fantasy stories while still being part of one. And honestly, that's exactly what Fable should be. The original games were never just serious fantasy RPGs. They were weird, funny, and full of British humor. The combat also looks much improved. Magic appears more powerful, melee combat looks smoother, and the world seems packed with choices that could affect your character's journey. We also got hints about major villains and legendary characters returning, which longtime Fable fans are going to love. If Playground Games can nail the humor, the choices, and the RPG systems, this could become Xbox's answer to some of the biggest fantasy RPGs on the market. Had Clockwork Revolution. And finally, the game that might have surprised me the most, Clockwork Revolution. Every time this game appears, it somehow looks even crazier than before. At first glance, people compare it to BioShock because of the steampunk aesthetic, but the deeper you look, the more unique it becomes. The biggest feature is time manipulation. Your choices don't just affect the future, they rewrite history. Imagine changing one event in the past and then watching an entire city transform because of it. That's exactly what Clockwork Revolution is trying to do. The city itself looks incredible. Flying machines, giant clockwork devices, futuristic technology mixed with old Victorian architecture. It feels unlike anything else Xbox currently has. The gunplay looked faster and more polished than previous trailers. We saw new weapons, strange gadgets, and enemies that look completely unique. But the biggest thing is player choice. The developers seem committed to making your decisions matter in meaningful ways. Entire storylines, environments, and outcomes could change depending on what you do. That kind of ambition is exciting because it feels like we're getting an RPG that's actually trying something different. If they can pull off everything they're promising, Clockwork Revolution could end up becoming one of the biggest surprise hits of this generation. So after years of waiting, Xbox finally showed us why fans have been excited. Gears of War, E-Day is bringing back one of Xbox's most legendary franchises. Fable is looking like the fantasy reboot fans have dreamed about. and Clockwork Revolution might be the next huge RPG nobody can stop talking about. But now I want to know your pick. If you could only play one of these games tomorrow, which are you choosing? Gears of War, E-Day, Fable, Clockwork Revolution? Drop your answer in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more gaming news, showcase breakdowns, and everything coming next from Xbox.